I just got it going. Wonderful. Okay, so we are recording, so you know. So this is the intern route to the teaching credential that we are providing for you. We are here from the San Diego County Office of Education. We are a unit called Teacher Effectiveness and Preparation. And I have with me two colleagues, Adina Sullivan-Marlowe. She is a co-coordinator in our unit. And Nikki Bryant is here, and she's in our office staff. She knows everything you could possibly know about the intern program, and so we're all here to answer your questions together. So today we will talk about how there really is still a need for teachers. Some people wonder about that. I'm going to show you some statistics. How to obtain a teaching credential. So we're specifically talking about the intern route to the teaching credential. The need for basic skills to get into a teacher preparation program, as well as subject matter competency. We'll talk about those tests. And then what next steps you can take if this all interests you, and then some time for questions. Even though we'll have some time for questions at the end, we do welcome you to put your questions in the chat, and we will along the way, and we will either answer them in writing, so keep your eye there, or one of my colleagues will stop us and say, hey, here's a question, let's talk about that. So the first thing I do want to share with you, there really still is a teacher shortage in California. Certainly it's not in every different credential area, but I'm going to show you here a couple of graphics that will show you kind of where those shortages sit. But of course, we're also sitting on a very strange time where people are expecting a lot of retirements, and we're expecting not only because of this just happens to be the time when a lot of teachers came into the profession and it is their turn to retire, but also because we're in a very funky teaching situation, aren't we? And that's not for everybody. So between those two factors, we do have many limited term teaching permits are issued. And that just means that these are afforded school districts when they cannot find qualified teachers to take the positions that are sitting open. So if you just take a quick look at this graph, we're not going to dissect it completely, but over here you'll see multiple subject, single subject, and education specialist, and how many limited term teaching permits are issued every year. So just by a quick look, you'll see that single subject teaching permits are issued at the very most. Next comes special education teaching permits, and then multiple subject teaching permits. So those are how many jobs in California are not filled with people that have already finished their entire teaching program. The single subject teaching permits that are issued are usually in math and science. You may have already heard that. But here's another graphic. So the limited term teaching permits are the lowest permit that you can get to actually step foot as a teacher into a classroom. The next rung up is the intern teaching credential. And then of course after that is the full teaching credential. So now we're at the intern credentials, which we're talking about today. That means that you are afforded the opportunity to be the full-time teacher of record with a full-time salary, but you haven't finished your program yet. But this at least means you're in a program. The limited term teaching permits means that you have a couple of things satisfied, like basic skills and fingerprinting, but you don't yet have a program, teaching program. So intern teachers, at least, you're in a program, you're learning your craft at the same time that you're teaching, but here's the numbers for that. So each year we have, again, multiple subject is on top, then single subject, and then education specialists. And in this graphic, the two different lines are just whether it's a district intern program or a university intern program. They can both offer intern programs. So you'll see that all three of these credentials are issued for people that are not yet finished. So if you put those two things together, all the people on limited term permits and all the people on intern credentials, we have quite a few people teaching that are not yet finished with their degree. So let's talk about those permits. Just a quick overview. So there's a permit called a PIP and one called a STIP. And the reason it's good to know this is because if you're in the position at some point to want to have one of these, you need to know what you're talking about when you're at the district asking to work for them. So a PIP is a provisional intern permit. It's this piece on the left. You can only have it for 1 calendar year. So they're basically saying, we'll give you a year, but we need you to get into a program within that year, and then they can make you an intern. And normally it is provided if you have not passed the subject matter competency, which is called CSET. A STIP over here on the right is also a short-term staff permit. It also is only good for 1 year, hoping that you'll get into a program. But many times they offer a STIP if you have passed the CSET, that is the subject matter competency that we'll talk more about. Now the intern credential is the next step up. That's what school districts are happy to hire interns. They truly are. An intern credential is good for 2 years. So that means you're already in a teacher preparation program, and you have 2 years to finish it. Most programs do not ever take more than 2 years, but it also, in special education, they'll give you 3 years to actually finish that teaching preparation program as an intern. And you do need to meet all the requirements to enter a teacher program, and we're going to talk about what those requirements are. So that's an important part, and when we'll start talking about that. So teacher preparation programs, there's a traditional certification route and an alternative certification route. Clearly the intern credential is the alternative route, but let's talk about those. The traditional certification route is something you probably already are familiar with because you're here in this session. That's usually the post-BA university program. So you get your, maybe you get an AA degree at a community college, then you move to you finish that up at a university and get your BA, and then you go to a teacher credential program. That's common. But also the second bullet reminds us that there are many universities that offer the teaching credential blended with the bachelor's degree. So if you happen to be looking and you know you want to be a teacher, people that know they want to be a teacher, many times will find a bachelor's degree that has the teaching credential woven into it. So you finish a 4-year bachelor's degree with the teaching credential in hand. Most credential programs are blended with a master's degree. So you finish your BA, you enter a teacher preparation program, and most these days have a master's degree blended with that. This is the traditional route. And just a note that if it's an online program, it's still considered a traditional route. It just means that you've done everything in order. It means that you have your bachelor's degree, you have you're in a teacher preparation program, and there's student teaching involved, which means that you finish your coursework, then you get to be a student teacher for a semester, usually 16 weeks. Alongside a master teacher that's coaching you through that experience, and then you have your credential. The alternative route here on the right means you're hired as the teacher of record prior to getting all of that coursework done. And a university can offer that, or a district-based program can offer that. So we're from the San Diego County Office of Education. We're considered a district, and we do offer the intern route to the teaching credential. So just an example that a district can offer a credential. Some people don't realize that. I'm just taking a peek at the questions. It looks like they are being satisfied so far. Thank you. So when you're trying to decide between a traditional program or an alternative program, it's really important to know what the pros and cons are of each. And even though I'm currently working in an alternative program offered by a district, I've come from the university where we offered the traditional route, and I know there are many benefits to the university route. So let's talk about those. The traditional program gives you that master teacher support. That's the student teaching I was talking about. So you get all your coursework, you have time to soak that in, then you have time to practice what you've learned. And it's a semester's worth, normally 16 weeks of student teaching. And you have the master teacher, the real teacher of that classroom, side by side with you. Many of you maybe had a student teacher when you were in high school. and you had a student teacher in one or several of your classes, and it's that coaching. You get to take on the content little by little. You get to practice with somebody standing there right next to you. Normally in the university, it's a flexible pace. You can choose to take one class a week or 2 classes a week. You can, because they have so much coursework to choose from. And then the piece that all courses are completed before you teach in your own classroom. So you have all the information before you actually have to perform. And there's financial aid available. Let's go over to the pros for the alternative in that same. So the pros then to the alternative is that instead of having to do all that coursework before ever getting paid, because you don't get paid to be a student teacher, the pros of the alternative is that you have income and benefits coming in the whole time that your student teaching is getting satisfied, because your time in the classroom as the teacher of record counts for your student teaching. You do have immediate application of the content. So you're in the classroom during the day and you're in class by night. And so you can apply all those things you're learning right away, you know, the next day and that week. And job placement beyond the program just means that you actually are in a job. You've got usually when you're in your traditional program, you're waiting, where am I going to get my job? Well, that's all taken care of in the intern route. But the pro of an intern route is that you do have a program coach. The program, the teacher prep program that you're in must supply a coach, and the district you work for must supply a coach. So you have a coach. They're just not standing beside you minute by minute in the classroom. So then the traditional program, some other things to consider is that you would have limited income during student teaching, because if you're teaching all day in a classroom as a student teacher, you're not working. And it can be more costly. The university, no doubt, is more costly. But then the cons of the alternative program, the intern route, is that you don't have that master teacher support, and it can be very intense. You truly are working all day and going to school at night. And you just have to be ready for that. 2 years of that, basically. And you have less preparation before actually having the responsibility of being the teacher of record. But you know what? This is a great route for people that are confident about their skill sets in teaching. Maybe they've also been a teacher's aide. Maybe they've been a substitute teacher for years, which I would really recommend to all of you. If you're right now in a community college setting and you are quite sure you want to be a teacher, you could be an instructional aide right now, a paraprofessional. And as soon as you get a BA degree, you can be a substitute teacher. And all of that experience, you might say for an intern route, oh yeah, that's me. I'm so confident I could walk into a classroom today and be that teacher. So that would mean an intern route might be a good option for you. So what are the eligibility requirements of a credential program? This is for any credential program. In university route, district route, basically every credential program will require of you a bachelor's degree, absolutely. And it must be from a regionally accredited college or university, and mostly they look for a 3.0. Every university or district program has policies in place that will allow people to enter their program if they're not at a 3.0, so I don't ever want that to dissuade you. You always ask, right? I don't quite have a 3.0, but I'm dedicated, and what do I need to do? Also, the California Basic Skills Test, that's the CBEST you might have heard about. It's truly basic skills, math, language arts, and writing. And you must pass that to get into a teacher education program. And I have here this link, basic skills equivalency. So if you got a great score on your ACT or your SAT, or took AP exams in certain areas, you can waive the CBEST exam. So you'll know if that's you. And my colleague is putting those links in the chat for you. So I would keep your eye on the chat and just click on those links so they are at least in your browser, and then you can save them so that you can look back through them. And then most credential programs will require an application with 2 letters of recommendation. That's customary. Now, in a traditional program, Once you get into the program, they will require of you the completion of the U.S. Constitution requirement. Many of you will have taken that either in your community college or your bachelor's degree. There's a course that satisfies, but if for some reason you didn't have to take that course, there's a, I would say a pretty simple test that finishes that requirement for you. I mean, like pretty quick. You go through the content, maybe takes an hour or two, and then you take a little quiz at the end and that will do the trick. And then everybody needs subject matter competency, and that's the CSET. So the things on the top of the line here on my slide deck is what you need to get in, and the things on the bottom of the line are the things that you need to do once you're in. That's in a traditional route. So let's look at the intern route and see what changes on that. So the change for the intern program is there's something called pre-service. Pre-service means you need a little bit of content before you step foot in that classroom. It's 120 hours. It's a little bit of a lot of things. And I'll show you what those topics are here in a moment. So you need that pre-service coursework. It doesn't take very long. But again, just like the traditional route, you need the bachelor's degree, you need the CBEST basic skills or equivalencies that we talked about. You definitely need the fingerprinting, the clear fingerprint, certificate of clearance is what it's called. And of course, again, application with 2 letters of recommendation. The difference with the intern program on the bottom of the line means you cannot enter the full intern program until you have a job offer. That actually comes next. And you need to have passed your subject matter. So that just means that nobody can actually step in the classroom and teach things unless they've passed the test that shows that they have competency in those topics. We're going to talk about that again. And then again, here's this U.S. Constitution requirement. So you see the differences here in the intern route. The pre-service, a little bit of coursework before you get employment. You need to get a job. And then after the job, you get to enter the entire 2-year credential program. I want to make a quick note about certificate of clearance. I think many of you will know that's fingerprinting. So you go and you get your fingerprinting done, I mean physically fingerprint, and then you send that to the CTC with an application, and what you get back is called the certificate of clearance. And this is what it would look like. Once you're aligned with the CTC, you get into their portal and you make yourself a login, and then when they issue you the certificate, you find it right here on your portal. So this is a picture of somebody's portal with a big red arrow showing certificate of clearance. Now this person happens to have all kinds of credentials, don't they? But here it shows their certificate of clearance. So that's what any institution will ask of you, to show them that you have the certificate of clearance on file. So we're going to move from now to the subject matter competency piece. I see that questions are coming in and it looks like they're being answered. I know my colleagues will interrupt me if we need to talk about any of these questions, but keep the questions coming. So what is subject matter competency? The short term for that we use is CSET, C-S-E-T. And let's talk about that. So it's the CSET exam, which stands for California Subject Examinations for Teachers. That's how you get the subject matter competency. Or you might attend a university who's in your bachelor's degree choice, in your major, they have potentially submitted to the CTC, the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, and said, hey, look, our math curriculum and our math program, if you're a math major, assesses all the same things your CSET test assesses. And so if they've taken the time to produce that for the CTC gives them an issuance of subject matter compliance. So if you happen to go into a program that provides that, a bachelor's degree at a university that provides that, you won't have to take the CSET. So that's something to ask about. If you are absolutely sure you want to be a math teacher, you would want to ask that math department, hey, do you have subject matter equivalency in your department? That would be a question to ask. Or your English department, do you have English subject matter equivalency? Or in a liberal studies program, you can ask if they have subject matter equivalency for the multiple subject CSET. That's what this number 2 means. It's subject matter competency. And you would get a waiver letter from your university and produce that to your teacher preparation program. And they would say, oh, you've already satisfied the CSAT, good for you. There is a list on the CTC website that shows which universities have that. So you're in a good position if you're currently in a community college or not yet into a teacher preparation program. You can look at that list and see who already it might determine your choice for your bachelor's degree. And my colleague Adina has put this slide deck in the chat, so you can click on that link. It will be a live link. So let's talk about that for special education. If you want subject matter competency for special education, you do need to pass either the CSET multiple subject or any core single subject. So the core single subjects are, like you see here on the slide deck, English, math, science, social studies, art, music, even world languages. All of those single subject CSETs would equip you to be a high school teacher, a middle school or high school teacher, or a special educator. The multiple subject CSET would equip you to be a teacher in K6, sometimes K8, the way that the school names themselves. Sometimes K8 schools call themselves multiple subject. So you would want to pass the multiple subject CSET if you want to work in K6 or as a special educator in the elementary grades. Which subject do you not see here when I list all these single subjects? English, math, science, social studies. When you think back to high school, what other class were you required to take that isn't listed here? Because that one you cannot use for a special education credential. Does anyone see? I'm going to watch the chat and see if anybody sees which one is missing. It's just that it's not considered a core. Kenny Ziegler. Whoop, whoop. It is. It's physical education. So makes sense to me. You can't be a special educator who is supposed to be teaching content, academic content to students with special needs if the CSET you passed was PE. So thank you, Kenny. Good thinking. And again, this is just a reminder that it's the CSET multiple subject or single subject, or your bachelor's degree major was already approved as a subject matter approved program. So which CSET should you pass? It always depends on the students you want to teach. You just have to look at your heart and say, do I want to teach students that are the ages of K6, K8? Do I love middle schoolers? Because, you were a middle schooler and you know what that looks like. Or do you just really love the high school students who need to dive really more deeply into content? So that's where I would start. I would start with whom do I want to spend every day? And then secondarily, which content am I familiar with and interested in enough to pass a CSET exam? Because you have to pass the exam. So you have to know something about the content that you want to teach. So here are your choices. Of course, K6, basically you need to pass the multiple subject CSET. 6-8, either multiple subject or single subject, and you all know the schools I'm talking about. Some schools are K8 and they just call themselves multiple subject. But then there's also those schools that are sometimes K5, and then the middle school is 6, 7, 8. And if those middle schools operate in content specific pods, then they're going to want you to have a content specific CSET. So that's the deal there. 9, 12, of course, you'd have to pass a single subject CSET of any one of those content areas: math, science, art, music, social studies. Early childhood, there's an early childhood teaching credential. That's birth through age 5. And no CSET is required for that. And so the next piece is, which do you think you're most interested in? So what are those credential areas that you are able to look at. So look at all these different credentials. I think most of you probably know there's a credential for multiple subject teachers. There's a credential for single subject teachers, but there's also this plethora of credentials if you want to teach students with special needs. And students with special needs, there is such a variety. I mean, there are some students that they just don't get the content quickly, and that's called mild to moderate special needs. And school looks pretty similar to a student in gen ed. But then, so that's what this one here called mild to moderate. And then this one down here called moderate to severe at the bottom, you know, they have more significant special needs. And, but look at this, you can get a credential in early childhood education, like I just mentioned. There's also a special credential for the visually impaired and the deaf and hard of hearing. So all of those credentials are an option for you. So something to think about, the age of the students you want to spend time with and the learning needs of the students you want to spend time with. Okay, so every teacher must show subject matter competency. That's a given. We already so we're just reviewing that the CSET multiple subjects is basically for K8, K6, sometimes K8. The CSET single subject, there's actually 20 single subjects that you can choose from. And then the special educators do take either the multiple subject or one of the core subjects. What about the test itself? So most of those CSET exams, there's 3 subtests. For whatever subject it is, there's basically 3 subtests. There's some differences there that I'm going to show you. But if you're taking the multiple subject CSET, which means you need to know all kinds of topics, right? Because the K6 teacher teaches 7 things. So you need to be tested in 7 things. Basically, the level of that content is through 8th grade. So if you have a history portion, you could see this here. CSET, subtest 1, tests reading, language, literacy, history, and social science. So you're like, wait, how much history? History through 8th grade. So you're probably taking some of that content again now in a community college, but that's basically what it is. CSET subtest 2 for multiple subjects is science and math. Again, you can think of it as the content through about 8th grade. And then the 3rd subtest is PE, human development, visual and performing arts. You can take all those subtests in one sitting, or you can take them one at a time. You can go back and take them one at a time. There's all kinds of study materials out there for you, which I have here. Good thing to note, once you take it, it's valid for 10 years. So even if you took it now, hopefully you would be a teacher within 10 years, but you have to keep that in mind. And then also additional assistance. It's probably smart to gather some test prep materials, unless you go, oh, I've just been taking some of that stuff. I'm just going to go take it and see what's on there. But this teacher's test prep is the free materials that are online. And our San Diego County Office of Education offers online test prep. It's structured for you. It basically says here, take this many weeks, go through this content very systematically. It's asynchronous online, and then go take the test. So it's more structured if you need a more structured approach. We do offer that, and those links are live. Something to note, we talked about the CBEST of basic skills, and now you have the CSET. If you say, hey, I'm just going to take that CSET and I'm going to add one more subtest called the writing skills subtest, and that satisfies both CSET and CBEST. So some people just think that's the more efficient route. So I just wanted to toss that in there to make sure you knew that. So the single subject CSETs that are not 3 subtests, there's a few. So it's foundational math and science. Basically they're saying, hey, we need teachers in math and science badly. And you know what? We're going to take off that 3rd subtest if you're just willing to get the foundational math credential or the foundational science credential, but it still allows you to teach 70% of the math classes on any high school campus. You just can't teach the very, very highest ones. So that's an option for some people if you want a job in math or science, which are supposedly easier to find. You could just do the foundational math or science. The only other difference also is the English subtest is there are 4. To be an English teacher at the middle or high school level, there are 4 subtests. So what questions do you have about Subject matter competency, I think they've been coming in, but if you have others, this is probably the most complex part of the teaching profession, the CSET itself, but hopefully, I have a couple people in the waiting room. It might be an old message, but just letting my colleagues know. So yeah, if you have more questions about the CSET, please put them in the chat. So now that you've got some of those basics, what would be your next steps? So it looked like from the chat that most of you are in a community college setting, but knowing that if you want to go the teacher route this early is so ideal. I just think it's so great. So what next steps would you have if you go, yep, I want to be a teacher. And in fact, I'm going to do what I can to get some experience so that I'm ready for the intern route. What would you do? So my thought is that the very first thing I would do if I were you is study and pass the CBEST. The CBEST is your ticket to substitute teaching and to the first steps of getting entered into a credential program. So if you're feeling good about your basic skills competency, it's math, English, language arts, and writing. That's the first thing I would do is find a test date. Now we're in a very strange time right now, and test dates are a little bit harder to find, right? Because a lot of things are closed down. They're being very careful. So getting a test date isn't as easy as it used to be. So that's the thing I would say is get a test date. Sometimes we get to a point and the date gets canceled, but you've got time if you are at the community college level right now. First step. Next is after you got that CBEST test, you're qualified to enter a pre-service program if the intern route is for you. At that point, once you're in those first 120 hours, then I would definitely start studying and passing the CSET. If you've got time, go ahead and study for that CSET. The more you have when you're ready to enter a credential program, the better. And then, of course, at the point that you have the CBEST and the CSET and a bachelor's degree, you find that employment as an intern. And those are posted on EdJoin. So we'll talk a little bit about EdJoin. That's where most school districts post all their openings. And the caution is you don't look for jobs that say we're hiring an intern, because that's really not what they're looking for. And the CTC doesn't want people to hunt for interns. They want people to hunt for teachers. So if it says that we need a teacher, you're eligible if you're seeking that as an intern. So we talked about pre-service, and I just mentioned again, here are the topics that you would get in the pre-service program. The California Commission on Teacher Credentialing says these are the topics that every candidate must get before they step foot in the classroom as a teacher of record. And you can see them here. It's all the things you would think it is. Now, all of these topics would be repeated in the actual 2 years of coursework in a much deeper level, but it gives you the nuts and bolts, which is the best part, right? You need the nuts and bolts to get started. So it's the nuts and bolts of classroom management, technology, how to plan, how to assess, about English learners, legal and ethical issues, very, very important. So those are those topics. And then here's a little piece about EdJoin. Trying to look and see if we got EdJoin here in the chat. It's so simple. It's edjoin.org. And it might be fun to poke around and see what districts are searching for right now. But the best way to seek employment, honestly, at the point that you are qualified, is to become a substitute teacher. We just had a training this last weekend, and we had a panel of district leaders, and they said, we hire a lot of our teachers right from our sub pool because they've been on our campus, they've proven themselves. So substitute teaching is a great, great way to do that. It does take a bachelor's degree and the CBEST. But again, and not on here is the paraprofessional. Being a paraprofessional is a great way to get some experience. There are teacher job fairs all over. There's a lot of them that are online and that we would encourage you to take a look at. And then many county offices, if you don't live in San Diego, you do live in a community that has a county office of education. They have partner districts, and county offices like to help districts get teachers in their district. So partnering up with a county office of education is always a good way to go. So the intern credential coursework, like I said, it's the same topics, just a deeper understanding, and it does take up to 2 years. It depends on the program. And a traditional program will take somewhere in the same range. It's about the same period of time. It's the same program. It's just that you have a teaching job while you're doing the program, or you don't have a teaching job while you're doing the program. And so that's really that's our nuts and bolts. We are fans of the intern route. We have right now in our program in the County Office of Education, 55 teachers hired as interns, and they come to class 2 nights a week. Come to class right now is virtual, it's synchronous virtual, so we see them 2 times a week. Again, they stepped right into a classroom before having any of the coursework. They're all doing fabulously, truly. They're happy. They're doing things strangely, right? It's not like any other first-year teacher has ever experienced, but they're doing a great job. So I just encourage you all, if you believe that you could be a candidate as an intern, it's a great way to go. And you have time to seek out all the classes that are necessary. If you're hunting for a bachelor's degree at a university, I would really look at those that might integrate their teaching credential with the bachelor's degree, because that's a win-win. If you did that, there's no intern route necessary, because at the same time you're getting your bachelor's degree, you're getting your teaching credential. But if you're not afforded a bachelor's degree that has a teaching credential combined with it, the intern route is a really efficient way to go. So this is our team. You have this slide deck. Also, if you have any questions, we just are happy to answer them. And so you'll see this on your own slide deck, and you can make contact with us. And so we're just open to hanging out and answering some questions. If anybody would rather unmute and ask a question rather than putting it in the chat, we definitely have some time for that. And we would welcome that. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'll put up our last slide because it'll remind me to tell you a few other things. If you're done and you are going to go, I really hope that you will fill out the survey. We're going to put that in the chat for you. Be sure to click on it, because when we're done with our meeting, our chat goes away, right? Click on the survey link so it's up in your browser. Just give it a quick look. It's very short. It's quick. The Teach for LA virtual workshops are, they've been doing it for years. What a great way to learn about being a teacher. So they are looking for your feedback to make sure that they can make every next conference just as good as it can be. I'm also encouraging you on this last slide. It talks about the student panel and the CSU reps that will be there available to answer questions. What a great opportunity for you all. So I really encourage you to look at that. Registration is required. So you just go back to that virtual conference brochure and register that way. And it's on Friday, November 20th. So this Friday. Just what a great thing to do to hear from these CSU reps. You'll get a whole nother taste of the teaching credentials on their campuses. That's where you ask about the BA included with the teaching credential, right? And lastly, for those of you that are interested, we will send out certificates for your attendance. You might not all want them, which is okay, but we'll send it along in case you want it. So that's our info about the intern credential. We'll just hang out, and if you want to unmute and ask us a question, we're happy to take that.
So I have a question. Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay, great. Okay, so 60 years old, substitute teacher, 5 years, obviously have bachelor's, past CBEST. My age, I enjoy teaching, being a substitute. I do well with special ed or with students who study skills who want to be cool, but I get them to work. My problem is I have to have income. So I'm a single parent, so I need income. So it sounds like this intern. So should I talk to maybe our site principal and say, hey, what are the possibilities in the future?
Yes, I like your question, Chuck, because if you have any experience working with special ed, it sounds like you were talking about study skills, and if that principal has seen you be efficient with students, he is exactly the right person to go to. And the intern route sounds just perfect for you. You have experience. You will need the CSET to enter an intern program. Except for right now, there's a funny thing going on, and the governor has issued an executive order that says because there's so few testing dates out there, they're allowing people to get into intern programs without the CSET and to take employment without CSET. It's just a funny thing going on right now. And it's set to expire August 31st. If things are still bad health-wise, they'll extend it. But Chuck, this would be a good opportunity for you. So if they want to employ you, then you find your intern program at your local university is probably the way to go.
Do you have a program? I heard LACOE has one, I guess, similar to yours.
LACOE does have one similar to ours. Yes, Merced County has one just like ours, Tulare County, but LA County does as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your help.
That's a great question.
Thank you for doing this.
Of course.
Another question. Do they look at, besides the site, does anyone else look at the fact of how many years or whatever how many years you've been a substitute teacher? Obviously, you must be appreciated for your skills or they wouldn't keep you there for a few years.
Right. No, I think that your years as a substitute teacher is really attractive. And even more attractive than that is who they've learned you to be. So anybody that you substitute for would be, the right people to approach, the principals to approach. And then looking on EdJoin for what's open in their districts.
Thank you.
Surely.
Just a comment. We have one, two, three teachers at our school who've gone through the LA County program, intern program. And one has actually left our district and has now a full-time position in Pasadena. And the other two are on our campus.
Wow.
Education specialist. So it's kind of nice that, I don't know, I guess some people can afford it, but taking a year off without pay is kind of tough.
Yeah, no.
So the intern thing is a good,
yeah.
working for everybody I've talked to.
Yeah, no, you're so right. It's a great route for that reason, and especially for people that have a little bit of experience, because otherwise it's kind of scary going into the classroom and being the only teacher there if you don't already have some experience. So sounds like you're a good fit.
If you still have high school, yeah, you can do anything. Not that they're bad, but many different personalities. So I guess maybe if you teach kindergarten, you can handle anything, which I haven't done, but good overall experience.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks again for having us.
Hello, my name is Brian Ortiz. I'm a student from Mount Sac Community College, and I'm looking to be a teacher in either single subject or multiple. I want to know routes that I could take where I can kind of step my foot into either waters, to figure out if I want to be single subject or if I want to teach the elementary level. I'm not too sure yet. The grade levels that have appealed to me so far have been 3rd to 5th grade and 6th to 7th.
Yeah, so you're trying to decide how you want to spend your day, but are you also curious where the job market might lead you? Is that part of what you're asking?
Where the job market will lead me, actually. Yeah.
Many times it depends on where you reside and what school districts are around you. And the best way to know what they're looking for is to get on EdJoin and really scan what positions are open. I can say for San Diego, it's going to be the middle school, high school, and special education. But you might live in a different county where you look at the EdJoin from the districts and you might find something different. So I know what you're saying is like upper elementary or middle school is great, but 2 different C-sets, right? So you either multiple subject C-set for the lower grades and it'd be a single subject for the upper grades. So that's also a consideration.
Okay. Yeah, because I haven't gotten my my credentials yet. I'm actually still studying to get my bachelor's degrees in liberal studies, and then I'm hoping to transfer. I haven't heard yet from Cal State Fullerton.
Oh my gosh, they have a great teacher program. So you probably, if you're headed there, I think you'll be well taken care of.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, it looks like we're kind of coming down to the end without questions. I'm lost my chat somewhere, but we, again, all those contacts that we gave you at the end of the slide deck, we're truly happy, no matter if you live in San Diego or don't, and just want to talk some more, we're very happy to answer your email. And it's just what we do. County offices help people become teachers. So please reach out as you would like to, and we will log off for now. And please do the survey, and then we will send that certificate out as soon as we get that. I put in the request, and then they go out. So thank you. Thanks again. We're really glad you joined us on this Tuesday evening.